Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. As always, I want to wish you a happy and healthy start to your Red Dildo Friday. We got plenty to talk about today as Bitcoin hit not just the short-term, medium-term, and long-term targets all in one fucking day. We got plenty to talk about as we head into the actual weekly close for CMEs. And of course, there is plenty to talk about in the world markets as well, actually seeing all of the major targets being hit on NASDAQ futures and now coming down. So do we actually have a major high in place? Perhaps, yes. But there's of course critical things to be talking about right there. In the next week of action. So with that said, we can look over here at the Krown Chain application, which can be found at app.krownchain.net. And this is very interesting, actually. Throughout this whole dump, the open interest has been coming down here, which is very, very interesting overall. It does kind of fit in with my macro view that Bitcoin actually, even after this nice, $2,000 dump dildo, is actually still overall on the macro, again, not to be confused with the short or medium term timeframes, but very likely still going to remain in the uptrend. However, when it comes down to it, because Bitcoin has hit all of the long-term areas, do I think that there's more downside? Very likely, yes. So again, as always, there needs to be a nice interplay between all of that. And looking at the Bitcoin dominance coming up about 0.5% as well. So while alts did come down with Bitcoin, they came down a little bit more is what that would suggest. And the fear and greed index taking a massive dump. I don't think I've ever seen a one-day change this big of 39, almost cutting it in quite literally half right there. So overall, we got plenty to talk about today. I'm curious what the data tab would show as well, if there's anything of interest over here too. Do we see, yes, actually global funding rate went into the negative right here. Now this is still inconsequential. The same sort of logic applies both to the upside and the downside. Negative 0.01% is nothing. That's not necessarily indicating a major low or anything like that. It's around negative 0.1%, where typically that you see that inflection point occur, just like you saw right on over here at the actual top, just above 12,000 for that very short-lived day. And the fear and greed index for reference right here coming back down into the same range that we saw Bitcoin hang around for this metric for all of June and July, actually. So with that said, let's go into the actual price action charts right here, and let's follow up on yesterday's analysis as, man, there is a shit ton to talk about today, which actually makes things fun once again. So looking at this right here, we did say that yesterday, 2 days ago, this all started 2 days ago. We said that Bitcoin below 11,750 does make it short-term and medium-term bearish and initiates targets back down to 11,300. We got that 2 days ago on my birthday, actually, which is quite nice. And again, I really can't say massive thank you enough. The sincere gratitude that I felt for all of the love that I received that day is just insane. I'm still looking for the words to put it properly, but just absolutely blown away in a more serious tone right there. And I really want to look into the camera and say that because it is really important to me. But now back onto the onto the magic internet monies and over here. We did see that move occur back down to about 11,300 on a closing basis, pops back up, tests 11,500, which was a short-term upside target yesterday. The rejection was had. I did not make any sort of a major call between whether Bitcoin gets above or gets rejected from that region. Just if it fails there, if it fails and puts in another lower high, well, then we're very likely gearing up for another test back down to 11.3 and very likely beyond if we get any sort of a 2-hour or 4-hour closure below that. That happened yesterday right here. Right here, we closed 11,220 right on the same 12-hour and 4-hour actually, and that did initiate those next moves down to the $11,000 region, which then had that next avalanche of effects where we saw the weekly take out the major pivot that we were speaking about yesterday as well, which was last week's low, which then initiated a move down to the weekly 10 simple, which we got all in the same. That was actually when I was still awake. That was down to about 10,500. We've played out a very fast bounce there from about 10.5 to 10.8, 10.9, and then from there fails, and I was asleep during this time, so I actually didn't get to see this one in real time, but overall, after that, the long-term area had been hit. Remember that as soon as Bitcoin started closing 4-hour dildos below, I think it was about 10.8 or 12-hour or dailies below about 11,000, then that would initiate moves overall down, actually below 10,000, which we did see slightly broken yesterday. Yeah, 99.86 spot, or sorry, 99.87 spot, 86 right here. I do think that we still have a little bit more down to go, but overall, would I be looking for a short-term bounce in this region? Very likely, yes, actually. In fact, we're kind of seeing that happen right now. And how high could this bounce get? I do think it probably tests around 10.5 once again. And does 10.5 turn into rejection before some further downside? Again, I have the same thing to say about that as I do about 11.5 yesterday. It's not my place to call something like that or not. It's just an inflection point. So if Bitcoin does get back above it, it would change around my short-term and medium-term outlook on Bitcoin. But the long-term kind of remains the same as long as below 11,000 now. So the same sort of pivots essentially apply on both ends of the trade. And tentatively speaking, I do believe that the long-term target that we were speaking about from breaking 11,000 over the last month would be somewhere around about 9,600-ish region, which does seem to line up precisely well with the 200 exponential moving average on the daily as well. We're going to see daily Stokes turn back onto the downside right here. Daily Jewel was the harbinger or the canary in the coal mine, I suppose, giving you a giving you a decent sell signal right here, and then a continuation signal confirmed on 1st and 2nd of September. So overall, I do think that we very likely gun for this region right here. But, and of course, that is also the gap on CMEs, which I'm sure every fucking gap boy and their mother is going to be talking about. And, to be fair, that is one. Yes, indeed. And then more importantly, could we actually have some more downside after that? Well, I would be looking for a bounce off that region nonetheless. Not really dependent upon what we're looking at as far as the greater picture. Typically, those areas will bounce it. But if we do fail on that bounce and head back down below, let's call it 9,600, especially on a 4-hour closure. And let me just verify this right here. And actually 9,700 we could probably use. Then I actually would extend this run a little bit further south. It would not be too uncharacteristic to see this thing come all the way back down to 9,100 base here and try to put in like a major low right there. Now I have to be very careful with my words right here, not because I'm trying to insinuate that anyone's like not capable of understanding this stuff or anything like that. It's just of course when you're talking about a bunch of different time frames, it can naturally get confusing. And so this is the difference between being short-term, medium-term, and long-term kind of bearish, breaking all of those relevant levels as we spoke about on the way down. But the macro picture, which is represented best by the monthly and to a lesser extent the bi-monthly, just because we need more price action history to make more sense of it. But looking at this area right in over here, this actually would still remain in the overall uptrend for the macro here, still setting in higher lows as long as we are above. And here's the problem, when playing the monthly, they're going to be naturally very large ranges, but it'd be about 6,400. That will still be a higher low. And I do presumptively think that, somewhere around the 10 simple could be possible for sure, which is actually at that 9,100-ish level, or technically speaking, maybe 9,200 from where we are right now. So yes, all these things do still matter, and my macro view is actually unchanged from this. It is still an overall uptrend. However, short-term, medium-term, and long-term, which I separate the long-term and the macro from each other deliberately. Macro speaks to we're talking about like the overall trend. The long-term I usually refer to as like the daily trend essentially, or like the 2-day or 3-day trend. And in this case right here, you can see that we would still be in an overall uptrend. I think this is further verified by the bi-monthly, which we spoke about yesterday as well. And yes, I do still think that a test down to the 10 simple on this one would very likely be a major opportunity for the long-term, potentially a macro opportunity. But for right now, as Bitcoin does pull this one back, does that help knowing this area when we're still actually more than $1,000 away from it? Well, not really. So that's why I probably won't be talking about it too much, except for that little quip right there. But overall, let's go back down to the very low time frames right now, and let's see, is this thing going to bounce from the psychological $10,000 support or not? Well, looking at this right here, we do have some nice bullish divergence in on the hourly, so probably does get a try back up towards 10.5, I do think today. Maybe buy hourly is going to be showing some as well. Actually, no bullish divergence on a buy hourly. Very interesting. So that means that it's very unlikely to be on 3 or 4 hour, and there's definitely not. So overall, if there is a move back up to 10.5, I actually do think that it gets rejected, especially on the first pass. We probably do make another swipe of the lows. I would not be calling any major lows here at all whatsoever on this run without at the very least bullish divergence on, for the love of fucking God, a 4 hour, but preferably a 12 hour or daily. And as you can see right now, that's just not going to be happening at our current stance. We could actually put in hidden bullish divergence at some point, as long as we remain above well, shit. I mean, look at the RSI right here. It got so, it got so low that we could actually we could actually play that out with any sort of a low being put in anywhere around the 200 exponential moving average, especially, and it'd be quite aggressive too. So I would keep an eye on this area. I do think that this area could have a chance to bottom it, and if that area does fail, I'd be looking towards about 9100, a little bit further south. And of course, this also fit in with our narrative for the historical volatility percentile as well, suggesting that we're going to see a break of the long-term range this week, with this regression being broken right here. I guess I'm on my wrong chart because it should be already drawing in. Hey, where's my, God damn it, trend line? Stay there. I guess I got rid of it yesterday. But yes, overall, that did play out. Probably not to the side that a lot of people want. But hey, at the end of the day, I understand this channel is for traders, and while it's kind of fun to play sides, I guess sometimes, join a gang for a little bit of time. At the end of the day, as a trader, have to be able to go both to the upside and the downside. In this case, right here, when your volatility rises and it's coming to the downside, well, it's kind of hard to ignore a 2,000 red dildo. Is this a $2,000? No, it's $1,500 red dildo right in our faces. Actually, a little bit more so 2,000 if we take it from just a day prior. And so these things are major opportunities overall, and with those levels being hit, it's hard not to take. So I always get shit when I talk about that, because it's like, the bull gang will be, Krown, how could you short? Well, this is why. Oh God. Oh God. And if you, and then when you switch around to being bullish, then the bears do the same thing, and then they go, oh God. Oh, you can switch sides, huh? Strange, right? Anyways, yes, that's fucking trading, man. So at the end of the day, this channel is not about gangs. It's about these levels, man. And I do feel quite confident about the areas that we kind of laid out, and we're seeing that price action emerge from it. And well, sometimes that TA bullshit works. Also, I really want to talk about this as well before we get to, now let's spend some more time on Bitcoin right now. Okay, so let's take a look at the reverse stochastic indicator cross. By the way, Bali has all of his indicators on sale. This being one of them. Also, the expected moves as well. The links in the description below, and I believe, and also there's a what's it called, a coupon code with it as well. So if you want I believe it is a 10% or 15% discount, definitely take advantage of that. He also will give you, Bali and Pig, by the way, will also give you 7 days free trial on that too. But yeah, looking at the reverse stochastic indicator cross, it's actually pressure down still as long as we are closing 4-hour dildos below 10,250. So this would suggest that we are still in the process of this overall move, which I would agree with. Do I think that could also encompass another test back up to 10.5? Yes, I do, and I do think that on the first pass, very likely does get pushed back here. Looking at the 3-hour, what do we see? 3-hour is starting to get below it a little bit, 10,150. So lower term time frames, I'm going to guess, are probably catching their breath a little bit. The bi-hourly is showing 10,335. So actually underneath it right now. So a little bit of bifurcation here, which is kind of strange. All these, by the way, are pretty much on the, well, I wouldn't say on the floor, but they all are coming from the same area. This is your bi-hourly, this was your 3-hourly, and let's go to the hourly as well. Hourly's popping up and it looks like it's building itself too. Would suggest actually a very, 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 very short-term move back down to about 10.1, and then probably does try to pick itself up from there. Hourly jewel also is going to be lining up for a damn good buy signal, probably in the next day or so. Not there right now. It would still imply another swipe to the downside at the very least, and then it could potentially line up. But historical volatility percentile being extremely red, at this level right here too, also suggesting as the moving average gets kind of above and around the top side of this, that we're probably going to go into a contraction phase. And in this case, contraction very likely does come with a try to the upside, tentatively speaking, somewhere around 10,500. Now, just because I do think that 10,500 does reject on the first pass at the very least, does that mean that I'm going to be right on it? Well, fuck no. You've seen my opinion be wrong all the time. I mean, my opinion over here, even though we had all the levels laid out rather well, I was bullish up until 11,700 getting broken for the short and medium term and the long term. So, take that with a grain of salt. I do not trade my opinion, and I want to be very, 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 very adamant about that, because I also want to be hopefully passing on one of the lessons that I've learned, which is, well, you don't need to be right in order to make money. You just need to know how to trade, which are two different things. Your opinion is not needed, or at least my opinion is not needed. That's what I've found in my own, experience. But yeah, looking at the 4-hour historical volatility percentile getting rather red there too. So are we coming up towards a short-term and medium-term bounce? Yes, very likely. And if it were to get back above 10,500, and I would say 10,500 on at no less than I'd really like to see a 4-hour closure. Could a 2-hour do it? Maybe yes. Maybe yes, but I feel a little more comfortable with the 4-hour. I would extend that move all the way back up towards about 10.8, 10.9 region, and play at a range between there. Overall, though, I am not long-term bullish on Bitcoin as long as it's below, especially the 55, which is currently at that 10,950-ish region, the same area that we broke, which is driving all of these targets to the downside. So the same sort of implications right here, as long as we are below this level, again, about 10.9, we'll call it, or 11,000, in that $100 range. I'm not looking for this one to just like have a fucking, just a girthy green deal to just bring this up on the same day. No, we're very likely to test some more downside overall. Okay, cool. So while we are here on the daily, should say that daily Stokes are going to be turning down alongside price action. I believe that we already spoke about that, but that will remain to the downside more importantly as long as below 10.8. So on a daily schedule, we do have a rather large range there. If the 4-hour does retake 10.5, I would look for another $300 extension to 10.8, but still, as long as we're below that region, momentum does stay to the downside and structure broken as well would still suggest another move to the downside as well on this time frame. And like I said, yes, hidden bullish divergence could be building, but because the ranges are so large here, that could also be in play as long as we're above about essentially 95, 9600-ish region. So a little bit of a grain of salt needed there as well. What about the 12-hour? Do we see anything obvious here? 12-hour Stokes once again gave you the 12-hour Stokes once again, just giving away the fucking sauce, I guess. Turning down on the 2nd of September. And that actually got not this high right here, but it kind of told a story after Bitcoin broke not just 11.7, but then breaking that 10.3 region right here, and then boom, all the way down. And catching ourselves on the first pass of the 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average. Yes, I do think still that this one has a little bit further south to go. You can see here that momentum will remain to the downside on the 12-hour as long as we are closing below 11,800. I'd say that that's rather likely, as that's quite literally our last lower high right here, all the way up at that same price point, 10.8. And of course, that will come aggressively down as we get these next few closures. But I imagine, over the weekend could very easily gun for that gap on CMEs, maybe even lower than that. Okay, what else do we want to talk about? Do we want to look at the 2-day really quick? Is there anything in this region? Yeah, 2-day 89 is right around that $9,600, $9,700 target. I don't have a strong opinion on when we hit that. I don't think that timing, those sorts of things is right. Just going level by level though, if we do start to break. Actually, there's no real next level here between where we are right now and that next target down to about 9,700-ish region, so it does make things rather difficult. The only thing that's kind of in our way is psychological support of 10,000, but psychological support is no support at all. Usually just people, taking profits off their shorts around that region, which is what the open interest would suggest going back on over here as well. Whoops, wrong one. There we go. Hey, where are you, sir? Oh, sir, there we go. There's the dashboard. Yeah, coming down about half a billion in the last couple of days. So overall, things are things are still lining up in that way. What about the 3-day? Do we have anything there as well? We did come down and swipe the 55. It looks like 89's around that, a little bit lower, 94. Not really line up with anything else, but overall, anywhere within that range is where I do start to look for a major low potentially on this run. Could things come even lower than that? Yes, possibly. Anything's possible, of course. Is it probable? I would say unlikely, no. And we can look at probabilities a little bit later and some forecasts. Or you can look at it yourself. You actually have Bali's tools now, which is kind of cool, which is nice that people ask me less. But if we do start to break below, especially like 9,100, then yes, this thing really can come down quite significantly, maybe another $1,500 to $2,000, and that would still be within. And call me fucking crazy here. That would still be within the monthly uptrend. As long as we're above, especially 7,500, it's still just an uptrend here. So. This is the dangers of playing with an asset that has absolutely massive ranges. You love it on the way up, but you hate it on the way down. If you are a hodler and if you're a trader, well, changing your mind is like the biggest virtue that you can have in a market like this. Okay, so I think we got Bitcoin. Wrapping up my thoughts there, probably very, 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 very short-term move back down to swipe around like 10.1 or 10,000 even. I do think that we will play out a greater medium-term bounce, probably somewhere around 10,500. Assuming that 10,500 rejects again, I would look for this one to carry on the move to the downside, somewhere around the 200 exponential moving average on the daily, very, very likely at 9,700. If that area does fail, I'd look for an extension down to about 9,100 around the 200 simple. And these are also weekly levels as well. We did hit the 21, yes, and 55 is actually significantly lower than that. So you know what? No, maybe I do let go of that. Weekly RSI losing the exponential, getting kicked out of the bullish control zone. I still look at this as overall constructive on the macro, but again, on the short, medium, and long term, very likely coming down a little bit more here. Okay, so now I really want to talk about something else that we've had a keen eye on, and that is NASDAQ futures. So NASDAQ futures hit our very long-term targets spent in from like 2-3 months ago, all the way at 12,500 about at the 4.236 Fibonacci extension. We also had the expected moves forecast up there as well, and we said coming into yesterday that, hey, could this thing still turn around and make new all-time highs? Potentially yes, but right now is the time to be cautious, and I was basically saying that if we do take out the 1st of September low right here, I would be looking for a greater move back down. I said 12,000. This one just fucking overshot it like crazy. 10,000 or 11,650 is where we're at right now. I do think that we're going to play out a small bounce off this region, probably back up towards that $12,000 region. But as long as we're below 12,000, I do think right now, and this is the first time that I've said this in a while, I do think it's possible that we could have a major high in place. Keep in mind the weekly is going to be closing today at the end of the trading hours, which is going to be 3 p.m. Central Standard Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I always go off Central Standard Time because that's where I traded. I traded in Chicago, so I'm always thinking in that, and then I have to convert it into Eastern because that's what most people use. But looking at this right here, not only would any close below 12,000 suggest that we actually have a massive, depending upon how you look at it right now, it could be a doji, it could be just one massive shooting star. We'd also see weekly momentum oscillators turn down at the same time from a pretty critical area up here, and we'd see weekly RSI not just put in a slightly lower high here, but we'd also see 1, 2, 3, 4 stabs, or we could look at it that way, or we can look at it this way right here. We'd see a few stabs of bearish divergence. Now, does this point all the way over here still count at January 2018? No, I'd suggest not. Well, at least not on a weekly if you're using a 14 period on the RSI. Maybe if you're using a monthly, then yes, it could work. But I'd feel a lot more confident calling 1, 2, 3 drives right here, and that would very likely get us back down below the bullish control zone, or at the very least test around the exponential. So that would imply that we very likely get continuation to the downside right here. So here's what I can say about NASDAQ futures, and this is likely going to pour on over into everything else, because techs have led to the upside. They very likely lead to the downside. We saw rotations on the way up. We will very likely see the same thing on the way down. And so if you're, if whatever your sector was not rallying during this whole last glorious, 3, 4, 5 months, that's going to be a very bad sign. So looking at this right here, assuming that it does close again anywhere below 12,000, I do think that we potentially have a major top in place. And the way that I would confirm this for at least another major leg down, probably towards $11,000 base and potentially beyond after that, is if we take out this week's low, which currently as it stands is 11,582 and a half. So keep an eye on that area coming into next week. I think it would be a little bit too premature to call it, this week right here, especially without the weekly actually closing, but it's certainly in place, and it makes next week very, 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 very interesting. Looking at E-mini futures for SPYs, they're coming down too. Same sort of thing going on right here. I do believe that yesterday I was looking for new all-time highs in this one. I think we slightly got it for a second there. Actually, no, we came $0.50 short of making new all-time highs yesterday. This one's going to follow what NASDAQ does, of course. Very likely to bounce off this region, probably bounces back up to somewhere around 3,500. But overall, as long as we close this weekly below 3,500, the same sort of implications that we see for NASDAQ below 12,000, a potential top is in place and very likely does work its way back down to the 10 simple on the weekly, which is currently at about 3,300 and rising rather rapidly. So keep an eye on that area as well. This is all coming along the side of Dixie having a nice little bounce. Well, not so little, but quite nice nonetheless. We said, and we looked at this. We've been looking at this one for the last few months. Although I don't necessarily cover it every day because there's not always something new to talk about here. I still think, it's basically the inverted chart of the euro dollar is what it is. But in most major assets on the macro too. Naturally so, because they trade against the dollar, right? They get marked against the dollar. Anyways, let me just actually make sure that I'm recording, because that'd be quite awful to go through all of this and not be recording. And as we said yesterday, we're in a bouncy and potential reversal-ish area. I still actually do think that I don't think it'd be asking too much to get a full-on swipe of the 200 exponential average here, which is about a buck lower at 91.5. But overall, we're in a very strong bouncy area and potentially reversal as well. I think it'd be very early to be calling a reversal right now, and I don't think that this is going to like full-on reverse on the monthly, back above 93 bucks, or what is this level right here? Yeah, like 93 and a quarter this month, but it's certainly in play right now. So as long as we kind of grind this area out, it's the same thing as euro dollar grinding out that major resistance at the same areas on the monthly as well, the 200 exponential average right here. And I do still think the same sorts of things. Could this potentially put in a major high right here? Yes, as long as we're below the 200 exponential average. That is, my general disposition. The weekly is, kind of has the same sort of closure or potential closure as we do see on NASDAQ and E-mini futures for SPY, and again the inverted chart of what we see on Dixie as well. So Dixie kind of tells all, and I'm closing anywhere above 92 and a quarter is going to look good to carry this one onwards and upwards towards that 93, maybe 93 and a quarter mark, as we will see momentum also just turn up at the same time all the way from down here. Weekly RSI is interesting too. We actually have hit this trend line coming in all the way back from August 2017. I wouldn't necessarily call this bullish divergence because it is quite far away, especially on a 14 period RSI, but I imagine that we probably do see the same thing on a monthly. Actually, no, we don't see the same thing on a monthly. We made a new low on the monthly, in fact, if anything. But no. Oh, no. Ha ha ha. The monthly reveals all. This, if we put in a low right here, would be an uptrend now, wouldn't it? And if we make a new low on the RSI while making a higher low on price action in the context of an overall uptrend, then guess what that would be? That would be hidden bullish divergence, and that would very much fit in with my very, 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 very long-term macro view on this asset being actually very bullish. But I'm still talking like 3, 5, 10, maybe even 10 years down the road, but probably 3 to 5 years. So if it doesn't want to set in a low here, over the next like half year or so, we probably do look for a move back up towards 95 and a half, maybe 96, which I am absolutely ecstatic about, because that means that the fucking euro dollar is going to come down, and then I don't have to be poor by switching all my dollars into euros, which I live in. I live here in Europe, so for me this actually does quite matter, and hopefully we can actually see that. Well, I shouldn't say hopefully we see that happen, because I understand that that's going to hurt some people too. I don't want to be spurning that on. But it would be a good time to convert then, if that does indeed happen. And we do see some dual sell signals on the daily here on euro dollar as well. It's still trying to hold on to the 21 exponential average. I do think that maybe gets another swipe up towards the blue box territory. Basically got the same thing to say there. As long as we're below the blue box territory on a weekly closure, I still look at this as very likely a major high being put in. It's definitely grinded out a shit ton, and I can very easily be wrong in that, but still to date we have failed to get a closure even inside the blue box territory, which does make me think that a major high probably does get put in here, and we do work our way down to like 115, and probably below over time, maybe even all the way back down to like 112. So fair enough. This is of course a long-term downtrend going down ever since when? Ever since 2008. So trends are your friends if you just let them be. And in this case right here, well, a more than 10-year long trend, actually 12 years, I suppose at this point, is rather strong here. All right, what else do we want to check out? Yeah, everything's down. Everything's nice and red. Ooh, it's oh so lovely. What about gold? Hey, gold, what are you doing? Gold's got the same thing in place as well. Monthly did close a massive long-legged doji dildo last month. Any sort of a move below last month's low at 1862 and not extend targets all the way down to wherever the 10 symbol is at that point, currently standing 1750. Weekly, or actually yesterday I was looking for a move back up to 2000. We got it. Hey, yeah, nice, we got it. Well, no, we didn't. Oh, no, that was a few days ago. Okay, yeah, fair enough. This one right here, what would I be saying on this one? I don't know on gold. If I had to call it, I just think it goes down in general, because everything else is going down. Very likely a target back down here towards $1,900 base, short and medium term. Kind of is putting, I mean, it is putting a series of lower highs right here, but not necessarily lower lows just yet either. And the jewel on the daily is starting to line up for a sell signal as well. So I would say that more than likely to come back down and swipe 1900. Probably does try another bounce there. If that bounce fails, I'd be looking for a big move down to 1800. That obviously takes out the monthly level and extends targets probably for another leg down towards 1750-ish region. Okay, god damn, man. Mouth is full today, baby. Mouth is full. can be cut a million different ways. Okay, let's go take a look at Mr. Buterol as well. I believe he absolutely shattered my targets to the downside. Yeah, I believe yesterday. Where were we yesterday when I recorded this one? I believe we were right around here, and I did say a move very likely back down to like. No. We said the day before 420. Yes. Hold on. I need to watch that video again so I can know exactly where we left off, but I believe we left off right here, which would initiate targets down here in line with Bitcoin downside as well. I don't know if we actually went that far into Mr. Buterol. Anyways, doesn't matter. For right now, same sort of implications you can make on Buterol as you can on Bitcoin. Daily stocks are turning down. Daily RSI is, or sorry, daily jewels lining up for a pretty damn good sell signal as well. Not super perfect, but pretty damn good, all alongside a major fib as well, which is rather important. Now, I do think that there could be a short-term and medium-term move back up to 400, but as long as this thing's closed in 12-hour and daily doldrums below 400, very likely plays out some more downside in line with Bitcoin. In fact, I think Bitcoin's a little bit of an easier chart to read here because this one does look like it's in more or less of a bouncy territory. But the next leg down, if Bitcoin does break down below 10,000, I'd be looking for a move down towards about 330, right around here, in line with this former area that we broke out of just about a month or two ago. Also in line with the Cyan 89 expansion moving average as well, and could further targets be derived? Well, I mean, this is a pretty macro area coming in from that major spike in June 2019. I'd be looking for a big bounce off that region regardless. If things were to fail, though, I suppose the next area that I'd be looking towards is, well, down around 290 to 300 bucks. So, can things come down that hard? Yeah, they certainly can. But let's see, has this one reverted the monthly trend here, or would that revert the monthly trend? Well, no. We have higher lows, and this is again for reference. We have higher lows as long as this thing's closing above 130. So, keep in mind when we're talking about the macro, we need to include a macro scale, and well, on something like this, that also includes about a 50% dump, if possible. Actually, a little more than that. Quite nasty indeed. Okay, what about Tesla? Tesla, we did say that very likely a major high is being put in right now. I'd still kind of stick true with that one, even though the monthly still looks good here. That's the problem with it. I do think short and medium term probably comes back down to like 350 or 360 region. I'd be looking for a bounce off there as well. And then we'll come back and play it. Looking at the weekly, it does seem, we do have major bearish divergence in play here. So this week could really confirm that, especially if we close anywhere here or lower, or anywhere below 445, and then take out this current low, which is currently about 402. I'd extend targets down to wherever the 10 simple is, with a small bounce there at about 325, and then extension probably towards a 21 over time. And do I think that this could be the next major high being printed in this one? Yes, I stick to with what I said yesterday. I do think so. Even though the monthly is still looking overall good here, we got a lot of space to fill out, I suppose. Okay, what else we want to talk about? How long has this video been? It's been a little bit too long, maybe. Okay, 32 minutes. Let's go see what's going on over here too. I haven't looked at my my secondary charts just yet. There it is. Yeah, so we can see the bottom side of the Bollinger Bands is actually hovering around that 10,500-ish region. So as long as we are closing dailies below 10.5, and here's what I can stick to a little bit more as well. As long as we're closing 12-hour and dailies below 10.5, Bitcoin's still in the process of trending to the downside, and trending quite aggressively here too. I mean, we closed massively outside the bottom side Bollinger Bands right there. MACD is doing something that you really don't want to see as well. We did not catch any support at the 0 read right here. In fact, it's actually increasing momentum to the downside right now. So overall, again, another sign that we probably do head back down a little bit, somewhere around 96, maybe 9,700. Could that be a reversal point? Yes. But if that fails, 9,100 is still where I'd be looking towards. So things can get nasty here for sure. But overall, still kind of taking its time. So that would be my critical point for the daily, especially today. And that will change tomorrow, but we'll come back and do another video tomorrow. So all good. What else we want to look at? Yeah, let's go back to Bitcoin and let's go mark out our ranges and then go talk about probabilities. So here we are on the 4 hour, and I'll be using 10.5 to the upside on a daily closure. To the downside, I suppose there's not really too much up on a daily that's currently holding us up from where we are right now, and that next presumed target somewhere around, like, let's call it 96 to 9700. So I suppose that's what I'll use for my downside target, right in line with the 200 exponential moving average here, actually cut right in the middle at 9650. So let's just go see what it says. Oops. The probability of getting above 11,700 is very low today, by the way, and the probabilities yesterday were proper, and essentially suggesting that if Barrows want to take control, it was going to very likely happen that day or the day after. And it looks like they took control. So there you go. But looking at this area right here, we're going to use 10.5 to the upside now. And to the downside, I'm going to use 96.50. So let's see what this shows. Okay. All right. So 10.5, a daily closure above does actually have a 21 and a 44% chance to happen, which is relatively high. By the same token, 96.50 has about a 12% chance to close below on today's daily dildo. So if we do close below 96.50 or 96, whatever you want to say that as, I would extend targets down to about 9100. That would say that it's rather unlikely, especially to happen today, especially in comparison to the above target probability. But both of these are secondary or tertiary to what's the most likely thing to happen. Well, if these have a combined probability of like 32 or 33%, then what's the most likely thing? That we play out a range between that. So very, very likely, I do think that the short-term test around 10.5 probably does reject from there. And then I'd be looking for another swipe down below 10,000, maybe coming into next week or something like that. Bawling Pigs Moms turned down yesterday night on both the error correcting and the, and the regular right here too. So all looking for a little bit more down, it looks like to me. And wrapping up my thoughts here, starting off with the 4 hour. Do I think that we're gonna have a very short-term move back up to 10.5, maybe sometime today, maybe over this weekend? Probably yes. I do think on the first pass probably rejects, and assuming that the rejection holds, I would be looking for an overall swipe below 10,000, maybe into next week or the week after that, somewhere around 9,700ish region to 96, with a very strong bounce there implied potential reversal. If that area does fail, then I would be looking for extension down to 9,100. By the same token, if Bitcoin were to retake 10.5 right here, even on a 2 hour or 4 hour dildo closure, I would extend short-term targets back up to 10.8, 10.9. But same implications now. And what we can do for the long term here, and I should have done this earlier, is flip this down. So we can use the same bottom side area, but now it'd be a little bit more aggressive with flipping the top side to the bottom side. So it'd be more so of a range between about 10.850 and 10.950. Still a $100 range, but just $100 lower. And so as long as below that, I am long-term looking for this one to have more downside. And as long as below 10.5, I'm immediately in like the short and medium terms looking for it to have some more downside, even though I do think that it gets retested probably relatively soon. So yeah, I think that gathers up all my thoughts right there. And I think that's where I'll leave off this video today. I didn't even talk about my fucking programs. God damn it, man. All the programs are on sale for 20% off. You don't need any code, and it's right there for you. Of course, as always, watch the videos that accompany them. They're going to let you know who they're for, who they're not for. The Neophytes program is for extreme beginners, like extreme beginners. Please watch the video that accompanies it, because it will tell you, maybe you might actually be above that level already. These two programs right here are a lot more in-depth, a lot more lengthy as well, 30 to 40 hours long, respectively. And the Master Your Options program is, well, that has a massive learning curve. So if you're not already solid on this over here, which you don't necessarily need to know trade options, of course, but if you're not solid on it, I would suggest not considering this, at least until you got like a basic understanding of TA. And what else do I want to say? Yes, so with these things, again, watch the videos, because that's gonna tell you what you really need to know. But what I can say to kind of assuage that or not is, if you don't actually have enough time to invest in these programs, it's really not going to be a good idea to get into them, because it's going to take a lot of time commitment on your own behalf. Because one, their programs are fucking long. Two, you're going to have to practice it usually day in and day out. I mean, that's how you get to a high level at any skill, really. It's all the same process now, isn't it? But on top of that, you have to realize that this is a long process, just like anything, again, as well. And what I typically see, the trajectory that I see most people make is like, assuming that they get a program like this, and they have a community to get around, which we do, and they're very diligent in taking notes and keeping a trade journal, like an actual trade journal, not fucking in your head, no bullshit like that. You actually have to write it down. There's something magical about writing things down, and really putting in the work. Usually around a year to a year and a half is when people becomes consistent. Yes, I have seen people do it faster. Yes, some people never get there at all, so there's no guarantee, of course, but those programs are there available to you if you so desire. We obviously have PineScript Mastery, which is from Mournfall himself, if you want to learn how to code some indicators in TradingView, which is pretty damn cool. And then of course we got Jackie over here with his new psychological program as well, and it's a video program. At some point we will have, or some point soon actually, we're going to have his actual mentoring group available here as well. Just need to get it up, but definitely check it out, because he's the guy that I go to for something like that. He's been running his own group for like the last year or two. I've known him for about 3 years now. I can vouch for him. He's good, and more importantly, he gets results, and that's what matters most. So I think it's time for me to wish you the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest on this nice Red Dildo Friday. Sorry for the annoying sounds today, but have to have a little bit of fun with it too, man. And I want to wish you well once again. Take care, and until next time.